Each year I find myself starting this presentation talking about how proud I am of Liberty. Each year I find myself a little more humbled to be your mayor and a lot prouder of the city of Liberty, and so it is today. As you see on the cover slide, the theme is Liberty Proud. And my hope is you too are proud of Liberty and leave here today a lot prouder of this wonderful city. The past 2 years have been very challenging, but as you will see, in face of adversities, the city of Liberty has thrived. So let's get started with Liberty Proud. First thing I thought we would discuss just briefly are quality of life. Our city's been nationally recognized. 10th best, we were just recently recognized as the 10th best place to retire by Money Magazine. 10th best place in the United States to retire by Money Magazine, that national publication. In the past, we've been recognized as the 3rd best place to live, again by Money Magazine. The 7th best place to raise a family by Family Circle Magazine. We are a Tree City, USA. We are a Preserve America community. We cherish our heritage and preserve it well. This is not possible without the strong support from many community partners. We couldn't put all of them on the slide, so these are the key ones that we wanted to recognize. As you can see, Liberty Economic Development Corporation, Historic Downtown Liberty, Inc., William Jewell College, Clay County City Government, Ford, Hallmark, this Liberty Chamber of Commerce, Liberty Hospital, and Liberty Public Schools. And I wanted to speak just briefly about a couple of those. Liberty Public Schools. Over 13,000 students enrolled in the Liberty Public School District, which is what I refer to. The school district is synonymous with the Liberty community. A little over 30,000 Liberty community residents reside in the city of Liberty, and then there are approximately about another 30,000 that reside in the city of Kansas City. And from that population, over 13,000 students enrolled. The Liberty Public Schools has the 1+ program, which I think is amazing. Not only do you graduate with a high school degree, you have dual credits, you have the opportunity to participate in junior college perhaps before you graduate. You can get labor certifications as an electrician, a welder. There are all kinds of opportunities, but that's the +1. Not only do you leave Liberty Public Schools with a high school diploma, but you leave with other training. They have outstanding educational, fine arts, and athletic programs, and I would encourage you to take in one of the many offerings at the high schools, whether it be Liberty or Liberty North. They're amazing. Liberty Hospitals, you've already heard about the half marathon and the over 1,500 participants that will already be here on March 26th. Liberty Hospital is recognized as the only hospital in the Northland as a Level 2 State of Missouri designation for trauma, stroke, and heart attack. And they continue to work with the University of Missouri for an orthopedic program, and that continues to develop and flourish. William Jewell College, 3 years ago, rebranded, refocused, and repriced itself. And as a result, enrollment has been climbing every year since. They've increased the diversity of the students by 10%, with a diverse population now of over 30% of their student body. The link and the fundraising for that project, a new field house, will be coming online in the next 3 years. Another wonderful addition to our community. Ford Motor Company, they produce the iconic Ford F-150, the Transit van, which is produced, a lot of that's done at the stamping plant here in the city of Liberty. Both are #1 in class for sales. They've just embarked on the electric vehicle, or the EV, next generation technology, ensuring that this plant located adjacent to us will be here for many years to come and continue to provide economic vitality to our community. So those are just a few that I wanted to highlight for you. I could say many more things about each one of these, but when you think about William Jewell College, you think, a lot of times William Jewell College people say, oh yeah, that's in Liberty. Or you say, I'm going to Liberty Hospital. They obviously know where that's at. Clay County Government. Pretty much everybody knows the City of Liberty Square is where you conduct a lot of that business. We made investments in the community. Liberty Parks and Recreation, this very community you sit in right now, is celebrating its 30th anniversary. The sports complex is celebrating its 20th anniversary, brings over, I'm going to get this number wrong, BJ, but I believe it's 150, 200,000 people a year to participate in various events down there, whether it's baseball, softball, soccer. It's a wonderful economic engine for this city when you think about all of those folks coming here and spending a long weekend while they're involved in a tournament. I'm proud that the Parks and Recreation Department worked hard for the city and actually procured over $400,000 in grants for Liberty programs, services that they could extend to you by applying and getting these grants. The Public Works and street overlay by the Public Works Department. We had to suspend in 2020 because we just were not sure what our cash flow was going to look like in early 2020. Once we all started out with the novel coronavirus, and then it became COVID-19, and then it was the Delta variant, the Omicron variant, and I just read that now there's a new one that they're worried about. But over that 2-year period, in 2020, we suspended the overlay program, but we didn't cancel it. We actually spent those funds in 2020, and as a result, you've seen numerous roads and streets around the community, over 14 miles that were repaved and resurfaced. And in 2022, this year, we expect to do another 12 miles of repaving and surfacing of roads and streets in our community. Arts and culture, we have a rotating sculpture program that we started several years ago. It's beginning to bear fruit now. We have statues, the Great Americans Project, 3 statues throughout our community of George Washington, Mark Twain, and Susan B. Anthony. Mid-Continent Public Library now has a statue. William Jewell College, Second Baptist Church, the Liberty High School Performing Arts has a piece of art that was in this revolving program. There are a number of pieces in the various parks that the city has acquired in our permanent collection. And the Clay County African American Legacy just put a sculpture up at the Garrison School facility. And you may have noticed quite a bit of new wayfinding signage in our community to help people navigate as they come into this city. I'll go through all of these, but we have a variety of annual events. And if you just kind of read through the list, I noticed there's at least one thing almost every month throughout the year. And these are the annual events. These aren't even the one-time events that occur throughout our community. So there's all kinds of opportunities to celebrate our heritage, this community, various activities, some commemorations, the 9/11, the Veterans Day. But we do a good job, I think, of offering a lot of opportunity for people to get out and really enjoy the various activities and the various events throughout the calendar year. As I said, they're vigilant when you sleep, they're here when you're awake. Public safety, last year we had calls, almost 72,000 calls to our dispatch center, resulted in almost 29,000 police department dispatches, and a little over 5,700 fire department dispatches. And you can see the fire department was broken down to 76% were EMS, medical related, 24% were fire related. We participate in mutual aid so that we know at any given time we can dispatch an ambulance or a fire truck. We gave 258 instances of mutual aid to other communities, and we received about 334. So it's a very good and pretty balanced dynamic of how we provide public safety coverage. You might notice the blackout occurrences. These are instances when the police, when they were asked to dispatch, we did not have a vehicle or an officer available. We try to prioritize and make sure that those are things like someone calls, they have a car accident and they need someone to come and make a police report for insurance purposes. Or they've had a break-in, which there's no imminent threat, they just need to get it reported. Those are the kind of things that we try to put in that blackout category. We will be working very diligently in 2022 to try to reduce that, the blackout occurrences considerably. That is a concern. But as you can see, 453 out of almost 29,000. Economic, expanding the investment and the job growth in this community. And as you heard, my background is in finance, accounting, and business. So I'm a numbers guy. So bear with me. I'll try not to get you too far into numbers, but I think that's one way you can get a real true appreciation. So as you can see on this map, now you can see it. As you can see on this map, we have 5 pretty significant developments throughout the community, starting at the top of the map in the north part of our community at the intersection of 69 and I-35 Lightburn Street. If you're oriented where I'm at, kind of in the northern part of the city, and then you kind of work down to the south. The last one being the Liberty Commerce Center, just off the South Liberty Parkway. So I'm going to talk about each of those just briefly. The first is the Heartland Cold Storage Logistics Center, again up in the Heartland Meadows Industrial Park. The developer is Ace Properties. It's an $18 million investment, 13.2 acres of development, estimated 85 jobs, 167,000 square feet under roof. The estimated property taxes over 10 years, had that development not occurred, $939. With that investment, and even with some Chapter 100 incentives, there would be, in that same time year period, almost $600,000 of taxes generated, and considerably more after that abatement is extinguished after the 10-year period. In the same area, Heartland Meadows Commerce Center, a little further south in Heartland Meadows Industrial Park. The developer is Opus, $14 million investment, 15 acres, estimate about 180 jobs, 181,000 square feet under roof. And again, that was built on city-owned property. There were no property taxes being paid on that as we were a government entity. With Opus now owning it with a 90% abatement the first 10 years, there will be $398,000 of taxes paid in that 10 years of abatement. And then once the abatement rolls off, the other 90% will be paid to the taxing entities and will be considerably more. Heartland Meadows Logistics Center, just south of Shepherd Road, and just south of the Heartland Meadows Industrial Park. The developer again is Opus, $154.5 million investment, 152 acres, 265 new and retained jobs at Hallmark. Hallmark is consolidating some of their other facilities nationwide into this facility. By doing so, we not only get the additional jobs, but we also have a better and a stronger Hallmark distribution center that, while unfortunately other communities throughout the nation have been losing the Hallmark presence, it's growing here and it's growing stronger. It'll be 3 buildings, 1,600,000 square feet under roof, and Hallmark will take the lion's share of, will take one of those buildings in its entirety. Then if you come down a little further south, on the corner of South Liberty Parkway and the I-35 interchange, the Liberty Parkway Plaza and Logistics Center. The developer was Lane 4. It has recently been sold to another developer. It's a $62.5 million investment, 62 acres, and estimated 400 jobs. 710,000 square feet in the building that you drive by now, and 2 additional buildings with 300,000 square feet are anticipated for that site. So the Liberty Logistics Parkway Plaza and the Logistics Center. Property taxes there are $2,782, and because this was the first, we had a significant shortage of industrial projects in our city. This was the first one that we made a significant effort to try to draw more industrial projects to the city of Liberty, and this was the first one that we were able to land, being first, as I call the first hog at the trough. They got 100% abatement. So in this same time period, there won't be a lot of additional tax generated from taxing jurisdictions through the Logistics Center, Casey's, and there's 7 additional commercial sites. They're right there as you come up from I-35. None of those sites have been abated, so property taxes from Casey's and the other 7 commercial sites will begin being received immediately by the taxing jurisdictions. And the final one, and the biggest one, just south of South Liberty Parkway off of Hughes Road. In fact, if you've driven on the Parkway anytime in the last couple of weeks, there's a new stoplight. It's not operational, but a stoplight has been erected at Hughes Road on South Liberty Parkway. The Liberty Commerce Center, which is just east of the stamping plant. A $400 million investment, 339 acres, estimated over 3,000 new jobs, consists of 7 buildings, 3.6 million square feet under roof. 5 buildings are already above ground, and we have received, or they have received, lease agreements already. Walgreens is going to make this one of their national fulfillment centers, and Amazon will take 2 of the buildings. So they'll have a significant presence in our community, and we all know the strength and vitality of Amazon. Expect to see the same brought to this community. Liberty Commerce Center, over 20 years, with a little different abatement structure. Over 20 years, had this project not taken place, $21,548 distributed to all the taxing authorities. That's for the 20-year period. Because of the development, and we have a tiered incentive plan with the developer North Point, there'll be over $20.5 million distributed to the taxing authorities over that same 20-year period. So I think that's like a 99% increase in what the revenues are going to be received, as well as 3,000 new jobs. So I'm going to skip over this next slide just a second. So just to kind of put a bow around all of that so you get a sense of the size. In those 5 projects, we're talking about $650 million of investment in this community, in the city of Liberty. Talking about 580 acres being developed. That's almost a square mile of acreage. Liberty's 30 square miles, so we're talking, it sounds like a lot, we're talking about 3% of the land mass of the city of Liberty. Over 4,000 new jobs, 6 million square feet under roof. And if you just took the aggregate of all of those property tax numbers I went through with you, had these projects not occurred, the total distribution of property taxes over those periods, $63,000 approximately. With those developments, over $29.5 million of property taxes distributed to the taxing authorities, which would include your school district, your library district, your hospital district, the city of Liberty. All of those things that we all use every day are going to see substantial property tax revenues as a result of this investment. So now I'll back up. There are still other opportunities. If you can see in the northern part of the city with that little notch. In fact, the Liberty city limit used to be a straight line across there. That little notch was recently annexed into the city by, voluntarily annexed by the landowner who asked that it be included in the city of Liberty. I expect as I stand here next year, I'll be telling you about great things that have happened on that purple parcel in the northern part of our city. But as you can see, there's a parcel to the right, which is adjacent to Heartland Meadows. There's actually a piece in Heartland Meadows, that square box. And then if you go down to the southern part of the city, there are still opportunities. You remember I said there were 2 building opportunities around the Liberty Logistics Plaza Park, and there's also additional property just south of that. So there's still lots of opportunity for additional growth, but I feel very proud. 3 years ago when I stood here, I think we talked about we have no industrial inventory, and now we have $650 million of investment and $29.5 million of economic infusion to our community. Residential, single family and multifamily. There are quite a few things going around, and I'm just going to mention, starting in the bottom left hand, Homestead Hills, Homestead of Liberty, the Wellington Senior Living Facility, which is the one that's been under construction by the post office, Ella's Crossing, which is out right by the Mabee Center, behind William Jewell College, Lillian Acres, Clay Meadows, Clay Woods, Clay Meadows, that whole area continues to grow. And then Withers Farm is a facility. You've seen some dirt and quite a bit of construction now going on closer to the parkway on Withers Road. So that's about 230 platted lots. 94 of them are currently available, and there are about 100 future lots as well. And then the two senior living or multifamily facilities, those two add up to just south of 350 units for over 55 residents. Speaking of which, apartments for 55 and over. Used to say senior, but I'm in that category, so 55 and over sounds a little less old. The Wellington, a $26 million investment, 153 units, 9 plus acres. And then Withers Farm, as I said, a little further down Withers Road, closer to South Liberty Parkway, a $25 million investment, 191 units, right-sized apartments for active older adults, just short of 17 acres being developed there. And then as you look at the other opportunities for residential and commercial development around our community, you can see from all the way around the north, there's about 1,000 acres that surrounds Liberty North High School. The challenge there is there's not a lot of infrastructure, whether it's road network, water, or sewer, but we see great things and great opportunities for that acreage. The Cardinal Hill Golf Course off of Lightbird Street that's now not been operational for several years, 370 acres that's being actively marketed by William Jewell College, the owner. Withers Road, south of the new library, so if you think where the library is, and then when you move on down where that Withers Farm development is occurring, there's about 50 acres in there. And then all along South Liberty Parkway, from Withers Road all the way to 291, there's over 1,000 acres of greenfield opportunity, and we've already had some developers approach us, and we've actually had some changes to our comprehensive land use plan, which is kind of foretells of future things coming related to some development on South Liberty Parkway. So financial, I'm not going to talk a lot about that. I've already overwhelmed you probably. I see some people's eyes have glazed over with the numbers already. You know, I thrive on numbers, but I understand why yours might glaze over. I feel like the city's been very fiscally responsible. And to demonstrate that, the property tax levy in this city, as you can see, we are the second lowest of most of the Northland communities that you might choose to ask about. Gladstone's just a little bit below us, but North Kansas City, Excelsior, Kearney and Smithville have a little bit of a different structure where they have an ambulance or a fire district in addition to their city levy. All the other communities already provide those services within the levies that they have. And then Kansas City, which is primary, I hesitate to use the word competition, but they are the closest community with which we try to do business and attract businesses and residents. As you can see, their property tax levy is substantially higher than the city of Liberty. So to kind of put Liberty versus Kansas City, again, I'm not too much into competition, but at the same time, we would be foolish to not say we compete. So a household, the annual tax burden of a household in the city of Liberty versus Kansas City. As you saw, their property taxes are almost double what the city of Liberty's property taxes are. That means if you owned a $194,000 home, which is about the average for Clay County, you'd pay just about $378 more per year in property taxes. Our sales tax rate is just slightly higher by 1/8 of 1% than the city of Kansas City. So if you spend about $1,000, if you spend it in Liberty, you pay about $15 more in sales taxes than you would in Kansas City. We do not have an earnings tax. The city of Kansas City, whether you work or live in Kansas City, Missouri, you pay 1% of your earnings. The average wage earner in Clay County is about $76,600. So you pay $766 in earnings tax. Kansas City has a restaurant tax. The city of Liberty does not. I think the restaurant tax is 5%, if I recall correctly. So if you just spent $100 a month in a restaurant or a fast food location, you'd spend about $24 more per month in taxes. Yeah. So what that all boils down to is the burden for a Kansas City resident is about $5,500. The tax burden for a Liberty resident is just south of $4,400. Or to put it another way, you spend about $1,150 more in taxes if you live in the city of Kansas City, which is about 26.4% more than the city of Liberty. So again, that's where I feel like the city of Liberty, we've been pretty fiscally responsible, and I'm not suggesting that that city is irresponsible. I'm just saying we're doing a little bit better than they are. And then finally, I talked a little bit about abatements, and I think I showed you this last year, but I think it's again critical because sometimes you hear about incentives being paid to companies, and there's what's called the but-for test. And a lot of times the feeling is these developments do not happen in your community, but for your incentives or essentially outbidding other communities for those facilities. So the 5 industrial facilities that you saw at the top of this presentation, but for incentives, 1 or more of those likely would not be in the city of Liberty. So the TIF triangle, if you've lived here long enough to remember what the triangle area used to look like, which is the area bounded by 291 on the north, Kansas Street on the south, and I-35 on the west. Lowe's and Hy-Vee are 2 of the prominent businesses in the triangle now. That was a 23-year TIF project that was expected to pay off in 2026. It actually paid off early, 6 years early in fact, on sales tax, 6 years early. Sales taxes in 2020 and property taxes in 2021. And as those rolled off, $600,000 of sales taxes came to your community, and $210,000 of additional property taxes go back to those taxing authorities that I mentioned before. And these are annual numbers. The second phase of the triangle, which is more of the closer down towards, actually, phase A is primarily Lowe's, and then the rest of it, which, bless her heart, Vicki just couldn't resist. Our finance director insisted we put all of these different designations on here. I would have just said it phase B, but just like you got at least two digits after the decimal place, we had to put these on here. Nonetheless, built out in 2007, again, a 23-year abatement, expected to be retired in 2029, retired in 8 years early. And those retirements earlier because of a couple things. One, the taxes that are generated by those facilities to pay off for the abatement, as well as the city did a number of refundings and refinancings. As interest rates became lower, we refinanced on several opportunities and saved several $1 million, multiple $1 million by being able to apply those payments more to principal and less to interest. So we paid off in 8 years. You can see $1,370,000 in sales taxes, and $814,000, which was a check that was just sent the other day back to the Clay County government and said, please distribute this to the school district, which got the lion's share of that, as well as, again, the library district, the hospital district. And so in the future, they'll be receiving those kind of funds annually now going forward. The last abatement roll-off I just want to talk about is the Ford stamping plant. That was 100% abatement in 2013. It matures in 2023. It was a two-tiered abatement, 100% for 10 years and 50% for an additional 5 years. And so the 100%, the first 10-year period, that first 50% it's being reduced to the 50% level now for years 11 through 15. By virtue of that, the 50% roll-off now results in $900,000 going to the taxing authorities. And in just 5 more years, in 2028, that number will more than double to $1.86 million per year to the taxing authorities. And you can see the others there. I won't talk about any of the others, but you can see the substantial 6-digit figures that are going to be provided to the various taxing authorities and the services and the entities that we all rely on. Well, seeing done, I just want to close with back to the whole theme of being proud. I think I'm really proud of how far Liberty has come, and I'm really confident about how far Liberty has yet to go. There's just a wonderful opportunity, and as you heard at the top of this, my wife and I both are products of the Liberty Public School System. We both have lived here over 60 years. Our grown children live here. Our grandsons live here. We couldn't imagine being anywhere else than the city of Liberty. So thank you very much for being here today.